Have you ever thought about someone so intensely that it almost felt unnatural? Like they appeared in your mind out of nowhere, at random moments, late at night, in silence. And no matter how hard you tried to distract yourself, they kept returning. Most people call it coincidence. But psychology suggests something far more unsettling. Because sometimes, when a person keeps crossing your mind repeatedly, it's not just your emotions trying to hold on. It can be emotional energy moving in both directions. Welcome to Psycho Library. There's a strange experience people rarely talk about openly. You suddenly think about someone you haven't spoken to in weeks, and minutes later they text you. You feel emotional pressure in your chest for no reason, then find out they were thinking about you all day. You dream about them after months of silence, and somehow they reappear shortly after. And the unsettling part is this doesn't only happen in romantic relationships. It happens between people with unresolved emotions, unfinished conversations, unspoken feelings, deep attachment. Because the human mind is far more emotionally connected than most people realize, especially when two people once shared emotional intensity. But here's where it gets strange. The person on your mind right now may not just be a random thought. Your brain usually filters out thousands of people every day. Faces, memories, conversations. Most disappear instantly. So why does this one person stay? Why do they return during quiet moments? Why does your mind replay their voice, their messages, their energy? Even when you try to move on, most people never realize this. Strong emotional bonds create psychological imprints. And once someone becomes emotionally significant to you, your brain doesn't process them like everyone else. It monitors them, silently, constantly, even in their absence. That's why certain people can trigger emotions without saying a word. A song reminds you of them. A location feels different because of them. Even seeing their name can instantly change your mood. And this is the part nobody talks about. When emotional tension exists between two people, especially unresolved tension, both minds often stay psychologically connected longer than either person admits. Not because of magic, because of emotional conditioning. Your brain becomes emotionally trained around their presence, their validation, their attention, their unpredictability, especially if the connection was inconsistent. Hot and cold behavior creates one of the strongest psychological attachments in human relationships. Because uncertainty keeps the brain emotionally alert. You stop chasing closure. You start chasing emotional relief. And the person who occupies your thoughts the most is usually the person connected to your strongest unresolved emotions. That's why you can forget someone kind within weeks, but struggle to stop thinking about someone emotionally confusing for years. Your mind doesn't hold on to comfort. It holds on to emotional impact. And often, they feel it too. Not always consciously, but emotionally. You can usually tell when someone is thinking about you by the subtle shifts in behavior people ignore. They randomly rewatch your stories but never reach out. They disappear, but somehow always return. They find indirect ways to stay visible. Like a reaction. A short message with no real purpose. It's rarely accidental. Because when someone truly detaches emotionally, they stop monitoring you completely. Indifference is quiet, but lingering feelings create patterns. And once you notice those patterns, you can't unsee them. Think about this. Why do people suddenly reconnect after months of silence? Why do they text exactly when you finally start moving on? Why do emotionally unavailable people suddenly become curious once your energy changes? Because human beings are deeply sensitive to emotional distance. Even without direct communication, the moment someone feels your attention fading, something shifts psychologically, especially if they were emotionally attached to your validation. And this creates a strange emotional cycle. You think about them because they're emotionally unresolved inside you. They think about you because your absence starts becoming emotionally louder. Nobody says anything directly, but both people feel the tension. And this is why silence between two emotionally connected people is never truly empty. Sometimes silence is the loudest form of communication. You can feel someone pulling away before they say a word. You can sense emotional coldness through texting alone. Short replies, delayed responses, dry energy. Your nervous system notices emotional changes before your logic does. Because humans are emotionally observant creatures, especially in relationships, especially when attachment exists. And attachment changes the way people think. Someone emotionally attached to you will unconsciously search for signs of you everywhere. Your social media, your habits, your schedule, even your tone. Not because they're obsessed, because emotional connection creates psychological focus. The brain prioritizes emotionally meaningful people. That's why someone can pretend not to care, while secretly checking your profile every night. And honestly, some of the strongest feelings are the ones people never verbalize. People hide emotions for different reasons. Fear of rejection, pride, timing, past heartbreak. Sometimes they stay silent because they think you've moved on. Sometimes they avoid reaching out because they don't trust their own emotions. But silence doesn't erase emotional attachment. It often intensifies it, especially during distance, especially at night. That's when people stop performing for the world, and the truth finally gets louder. You've probably experienced this yourself. You're busy all day, distracted, functioning normally. Then suddenly it's midnight. Everything gets quiet, and one person enters your mind again. Not because you chose it, because emotional memories become strongest in silence. That's when the brain revisits unresolved emotional experiences. Conversations you replay, things you wish you said, moments you still don't fully understand. And if you've ever wondered why certain people are impossible to forget, this is why. Your brain doesn't just remember people, it remembers emotional states attached to them. How they made you feel, desired, seen, anxious, safe, confused, alive. And intense emotional experiences leave deeper mental imprints than ordinary ones, especially relationships filled with inconsistency. One moment they made you feel deeply wanted, the next moment emotionally distant. That unpredictability creates emotional addiction patterns inside the brain. You start craving emotional certainty from the same person creating the uncertainty, and suddenly they occupy your thoughts constantly. But here's something important most people misunderstand. Thinking about someone doesn't always mean they're your soulmate. Sometimes it simply means the emotional experience changed you deeply. And those are two very different things. Because not every emotional connection is healthy. Some people stay in your mind because they gave you closure. Others stay because they never did. But regardless of the reason, the emotional connection feels real because it is real. The body doesn't fake emotional reactions. If your chest tightens when their name appears, if your mood changes after one message, if their absence still feels emotionally noticeable, then the connection mattered, even if nobody admitted it out loud. And sometimes the biggest proof that someone is thinking about you is how strangely synchronized your emotions become. You think about them right before they contact you. You suddenly feel emotional heaviness, then realize they've been watching from a distance again. You feel their energy return before they physically return. Most people dismiss these moments. But emotional awareness is more powerful than we're taught. Humans constantly read emotional signals subconsciously. Tone, timing, attention shifts, behavior changes, energy. Your brain notices patterns long before your conscious mind explains them. That's why intuition often feels irrational, until it turns out to be accurate. And maybe the reason this person is still on your mind isn't because you're weak. Maybe it's because emotional connections don't disappear the moment communication stops. Some people leave conversations, but never fully leave emotionally. And if someone keeps returning to your mind repeatedly, there's usually a reason beneath the surface. Maybe they miss you. Maybe they regret losing you. Maybe they're fighting emotions they never expressed. Or maybe the connection changed both of you more than either person expected. Because certain people become part of your emotional identity. Not permanently, but deeply enough that forgetting them immediately becomes impossible. Still, there's something even more important than whether they're thinking about you. And this might be the hardest truth in the entire video. Sometimes we become so focused on whether someone misses us that we forget to ask whether the connection actually brought us peace. Because being emotionally remembered and being emotionally valued are not always the same thing. And once you understand that, everything changes. You stop chasing mixed signals. You stop romanticizing emotional confusion. You stop measuring your worth through someone else's inconsistency. And instead, you begin seeing the connection clearly. Not just emotionally, psychologically. That clarity is powerful, because the strongest relationships are not the ones that leave you constantly questioning everything. They're the ones where emotional safety exists naturally. No mind games, no emotional guessing, no silent wars, just honesty, presence, consistency, and real emotional depth. So if the person on your mind is thinking about you too, you'll eventually see it through patterns, effort, and emotional consistency. Not just temporary attention, not just curiosity. Real emotional investment always reveals itself over time. And if they never reach out, if they never express what they truly felt, Then maybe their role in your life was to awaken something inside you, not stay forever. Some people enter your life to teach you what emotional attachment feels like. Others teach you what emotional clarity should feel like. Both matter, but only one brings peace. If this video made you think about someone specific, there's a reason for that. Comment below with the word connection if you've ever felt someone thinking about you before they reached out. And if you enjoyed this deeper psychological breakdown, make sure to like the video, subscribe to Psycho Library, and turn on notifications for more emotionally intelligent content that helps you understand people and yourself on a deeper level. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.